Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I'm very honored to be here to share my story. My name is Robin Beaton. I'm 59 years old. I was a registered nurse for 30 years. I had insurance. I was in good health. I retired from nursing, started my own small business, obtained a personal individual policy from Blue Cross and Blue Shield in December 2007. In May 2008, I went to a dermatologist for acne, pimples. A word was written down on my chart, which was considered to mean precancerous. In June 2008, I was diagnosed with invasive HER2 genetic breast cancer, a very aggressive form of this cancer. I needed a double mastectomy immediately. Blue Cross and Blue Shield pre-certified me for my surgery and for a hospital stay. The Friday before I was to have my double mastectomy, Blue Cross and Blue Shield called me by telephone and told me that my chart was red flagged. And what does that mean? They said that due to the dermatologist's report, and that was what red flagged my chart in the beginning, that I would not be able to have my surgery on Monday. And they launched a 5-year medical investigation into my medical history for the last 5 years. I had to give them.
Put it back on. You take your finger off once. There you go.
I had to give them every pharmacy, every doctor, every hospital, and they threatened me that if I left anything out, that it would be really bad. So I truly tried everything in the world I could to list every single doctor everywhere I'd ever been. I immediately got in touch with a dermatologist. He immediately called Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and he begged them. He said, "This is a misunderstanding." He said, "This is not precancerous." He said, "All she has is acne, pimples." He said, "Please don't hold up her cancer surgery for this." He begged them. He was the nicest man. Anyway, I was frantic. I did not know what to do. I didn't know how to pay for my surgery. The hospital wanted a $30,000 deposit, and I was by myself. I didn't have that kind of money. I turned to the only person that I had to turn to, and that was Joe Barton, my congressman, Joe Barton. Next day, I got a letter canceling my insurance, rescinding it to the first day that they had covered me. Can you imagine having to walk around with cancer growing in your body with no insurance? It's the most terrible thing in the world to not have anybody to turn to, not have anywhere to go. So just can't even say how bad it was. The sad thing is Blue Cross and Blue Shield took my high premiums the very first time I ever had a claim, the very first time, and was suspected of cancer. They took action against me, searching high and low. They turned over every single thing they could in my medical history to pull out anything that would cause any suspicion on me, so they didn't have to pay for my cancer. A nurse who attends my church works full-time for Blue Cross and Blue Shield. She looks through medical records, searching for reasons to cancel people. She came to me and she said, "I feel so bad." She said, "I just can't even tell you how sorry I am this has happened to you." Blue Cross and Blue Shield has control over life and over death. People have to be able to count on what they have paid for, count on having insurance. Blue Cross and Blue Shield will do anything to get out of paying for cancer, anything. Sad fact is anyone with a catastrophic illness who is not a part of a group, who has an individual policy, stands a really high chance of getting canceled, left out in the cold with no insurance. I go to a cancer support group every week. 4 girls in my cancer support group have had their insurance canceled, and 2 of those girls have had to declare bankruptcy because of cancer. It is very difficult for me to speak out. My insurance could be canceled again. I live in fear every day of my insurance company. I looked everywhere for help. No one found anything to help me until Joe Barton and Krista Townsend. After working for a really, really long time, every day they worked hard. I had given up hope. I didn't have any hope left. And they never gave up hope. They did everything they could to help me. And they got my insurance reinstated. After being diagnosed in June 2008 with aggressive breast cancer, I was placed back on a list to get a mastectomy, which I finally got to have my cancer surgery October 2nd, 2008. My tumor grew from 2 to 3 centimeters all the way to 7. I had to have all my lymph nodes removed in my arm, everything. Delaying cancer treatment, it only worsens the condition, costing more to treat, and treatment is much more intensive. Also, the outcome is not as good. I go to chemotherapy every 3 weeks, and I'll have to be going for the next year. Cancer is expensive, and no one wants to pay for cancer. I pray no one has to go through the sheer agony that I have had to endure for 1 year. I did not deserve to have my insurance canceled. Blue Cross and Blue Shield set out to get rid of me. They searched high and low until they found enough to cancel me, and they did. I owe my life to Joe Barton. I pray that you will listen to my story and help people like me who are powerless against the big insurance companies. And today, when I met Mr. Barton, that was the very first time I ever met him. He helped me, not even knowing me, just because he just is a good man. He just helped me. But I went everywhere. I went to the county hospital. I went everywhere looking for help. And you just get on waiting list, and when you get on waiting list, your cancer grows. So I just want to thank y'all for listening to me, and just please do something about it, because I couldn't even tell you the people I know that have been through this. It's a horrible thing to go through. Thank y'all so much.
Well, you're fortunate, Ms. Beaton. You had a ranking member here, Mr. Congressman Barton, who intervened, or else you might not be with us here today. Was it clear to you in dealing with your insurance company that if you didn't have a U.S. congressman working on your behalf, that your insurance wouldn't have been reinstated?
There's not a doubt in the world that they wouldn't have even given me a blink of an eye if it hadn't been for him. And I just could never tell you how he worked. If you only knew how many hours he worked. They called me every day just working hours and hours and hours. This took a long time. This was like a month, many, many months process. This wasn't just happening overnight. So for them, his office to take that kind of a dedication in me, I'll be forever grateful. If I live and don't die of cancer, I said it'll be because of them. So only because of my congressman, only because of him, did I get help for my cancer. If it wasn't for that, it never would have happened.
Mr. Barton, questions, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, thank each of the 3 witnesses. And I want to make a comment on what Ms. Beaton said about myself. There are 435 congressmen, and every one of us, our job is to help constituents. I have 4 full-time caseworkers. Mr. Wright to my left here, Mr. Wright to my left, was my district director at the time. I had, Christy and Deborah and Jody and Ron and Linda Gillespie, all of them intervened for you. I came in at the very end and talked to the president, but not just myself, but every member of Congress. We helped hundreds and sometimes thousands of people every year. Your case just happened to be life and death, and we put a lot of extra effort into it because we knew how important it was to get you health care as quickly as possible. But it's not just me, it's every member of Congress that tries to serve our constituents. And I will tell you, Ms. Beaton, we will monitor your case, and we will stay in touch with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas. And so long as you do what you're supposed to do, I'll guarantee you they'll do what they're supposed to do. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back.
Thank you, Ms. Barton.